Hey adventurers! Today we're going to be discussing The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. This is a little bit different than a book review. We've done book reviews in the past, and this is just a discussion. We wanted to talk about some of our thoughts because it's a little bit different book and we were taken so aback by it that we wanted to just discuss it with you.
Yeah, it was very much drifted away from what we expected it to be. We actually both really enjoyed it. If you've watched our vlogs, you'll have seen a little bit of our thoughts already. But we kind of just wanted to discuss amongst ourselves. We've tried to refrain as much as possible up until the recording of this video to discuss between ourselves what we thought of the book.
Discussing a book before we film it is something we almost always do. So today we're doing the process differently. We're discussing it with you. We haven't talked about it. Every time we start to say something, even before the camera started rolling, I mentioned something and I said, wait, turn the camera on so we can, we wanted to share our personal discussions about books with you for this round.
So because of that, we're going to stray a little bit from our not quite so set in stone normal order of things where we hit each one of those 5 elements of story that we keep talking about. So because of that, it's pretty much just going to be a discussion between ourselves and you guys on the other side of the camera. And we have no idea what it's going to be like, and it's going to probably be a pain for me to edit, but we're going to do it anyways.
One thing that stood out to me, and I noticed this before we started filming, is the man's hands. This was referred to so much in the book, how hardened they were, and yet even with his calloused working hands, who have been weathered, quite literally, he still was cut and hurt by the line, and that was such a significant thing to him. And having recently, I got some blisters on my hands, and just realizing how that affected everything I did and how long it took to heal. I can't imagine how he was able to work with the fresh cuts and everything and still be able to do his job as well as he did.
Yeah.
And there was so much focus on them.
I think really what stood out the most to me about it is the sense of wonder, and there's a certain charm and almost a magicalness to it that I wasn't expecting, because it's not a fantasy or even a sci-fi, it's a historical fiction novel, or at the time it may not have been historical fiction. And it had to do with the writing style and the way that it was presented as, I don't know, I guess a journey, but it was just, there's so much about it that was so different than anything I'd ever read or expected from this story. And I absolutely loved that about it. It
definitely does have a sense of magicalness, and I think a lot of that comes with the setting, it being on the sea. We've talked a lot about the Horatio Hornblower movie series, about how aesthetic it is, and I do think that this fits into a sea aesthetic, even though it's a very different setting, as in it's not on a giant ship.
British Navy ship.
The ocean has that sense about it, the wildness.
There's a reason why so many people fall in love with the ocean, and this book encapsulates that, and just really through it makes you fall in love with the ocean in itself.
Because you gain the respect that he has for it.
Yes, that's what I was getting towards, the respect and the love for the ocean that he has, and the way that he thinks of the fish and the ocean as his siblings. Basically, he calls the fish multiple times his brother. But no, that is just really interesting, that whole process, that whole layer to it, of a man who's been on the sea, who's been fishing, who has ran into all these different types of fish and has come to know them as his friend. And it's just, I don't know, it's very different and very interesting.
Yeah. I think part of what made the setting so beautiful to us is because the old man, as you discussed, you said he had respect for the sea, and that isn't something that you see a lot. People love the sea. I haven't read a lot of ocean books or books placed on the ocean, just because the characters have never appealed to me as much. But the ones that I have read have been something about the deep sea diving or mermaids, which none of them see the ocean. Is it the ocean or the sea? It's the sea, because the old man is sea.
Yeah, but either works. You're basically using them interchangeably, and that's just fine.
This is exactly what we have in our discussions too.
I don't know how much of this I'll cut out. Obviously, I'll cut out the long spaces of no speaking, but we kind of want this whole discussion aspect to it.
Yeah,
often.
but the sea is presented in such a respectful way, where in a mermaid book, for example, which I haven't read for a very long time, don't worry, that's not what I pick up in my every night now, but
No.
no. Yeah, it's
3
true.
weeks ago.
No. Anyhow, it's a completely different. They have a completely different respect for it. I'm not going to talk about mermaids anymore because I'm just not going to go there. But I think that's what makes this book so great, and that's what helps us accept this admiration, to gain this admiration for the sea, because the old man has this, and it's being presented to us in a way we've never seen before, and in a really, really incredible way.
So the whole aspect of him, his respect of the sea, it shows a little bit of that. You always hear stories of how fishermen are superstitious. How fishermen are superstitious. And
They're superstitious.
And how,
what is stitious, pray tell?
Anyways, they're superstitious, and they're super superstitious, and they have a fear for the sea and a respect for it, and I think that's something that's important to any story about the sea or the ocean. You have to understand. I mean, there's no way that even now. I think it's something like 95% of the ocean hasn't been explored yet. So we don't know what's in the ocean. I mean, we have some grasp of it, but there's so much more that we don't know, and that's the part that we need to have the respect for. I mean, we need to respect it all.
It's God's creation, yeah.
But specifically we don't know what's there. It could be anything. For all we know, there could be swimming dinosaurs left alive. We don't know.
And it's like he said, the marlin that he was trying to catch was so much bigger than anything he'd ever even heard of before. It was unknown to him.
But at the same time, even though it was so much bigger, when he was fishing for it, he knew instantly exactly what it was, because he's spent so much time as a fisherman, which is very incredible to me, that he as a fisherman could be like, okay, I can tell from the bite and the way that he's attacking the bait that it's this type of fish. Of course, they use different terms, so when they said dolphin, I was thinking of a literal dolphin
what
mammal.
Was it?
It wasn't a dolphin. There's a different type of fish that's very similar to a dolphin.
Because it wasn't describing a dolphin.
I know. And he was talking about how
and
he could eat the whole dolphin. And I was like, no, that's not okay.
I was like, I don't think anyone eats dolphins.
Because I think it was
flying?
The dolphin had like a whole flying fish in its mouth or something, in its stomach or something, or two of them, and it was just like, okay, this is really weird. I don't understand that, because some parts seem like a dolphin, and then some parts seem like this other fish that people call a dolphin. I don't know. It was just weird.
So I wasn't aware of that, and I was thoroughly confused.
I was so confused for so long.
That's the other thing. The marlin, I actually had to look that up because he talked about the
spear.
Yeah, you talked about the spear, and I was thinking, oh, this is a swordfish, but it's a marlin, and I hadn't placed that, and then he was describing the beautiful colors of the marlin, and so I went and looked up a marlin, and I don't know, that was really interesting to finally actually visualize. I had created an image in my head, but then to see a picture and say, oh, wow, this is really real.
Finding Nemo didn't teach you all the fish stuff.
No,
that you needed to know.
I mean, we did that fish tank expedition.
Fish books that you read for years on years. So what did you think about the writing style? Because I've always heard, and I don't think I've read very much Ernest Hemingway, but I've always heard that this book was supposed to be slow and dry and boring. But I didn't find that at all. I was almost immediately sucked into the story and the writing, and I was just wowed by how amazing it was and how beautiful it was without being flowery and without using too much exposition.
I think at the beginning of the book I was less into it, and especially once he's up until the point where he's caught the fish on his hook, that's when I started getting really interested in his dedication. You know, he was getting physically tired. You know, he had that hand cramp, he had a lot of different ailments, he was really hungry, he was very thirsty, and that's what drew me in. It wasn't just catching a fish, his whole life was on the line and his whole livelihood. And there was the boy back on the land or in his own boat who was worrying about him. There was more at stake than just catching a fish, when we go fishing.
Santiago, which is the name of the old man, he knew that he could always cut the line. That was always an option,
But it
although he
wasn't.
didn't want it to be an option.
It wasn't. It didn't ever feel like an option to me.
It's how he saw it. Although in the back of his mind, he also knew, okay, if I have to, I can cut this line.
Right.
But he also felt, oh, I'm still young and healthy, or not old and unhealthy enough to not deal with this. And so I think that's part of why we were so drawn into it. Is he fought for what he wanted, and as this story went on, he realized, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should let the fish go. He deserves.
He almost
win.
he almost let him go at one point, but he was so close.
Okay, I want to skip to the end now.
Okay.
The end of the book, where they were coming.
Skip to the end.
When we were coming into the, coming back from after he caught the fish and killed it, and was on the way home, and how he was thinking, yay, I've caught this fish, and then the realization dawned on him, I have to fight off the sharks to get home now, because there will be sharks coming. So he would fight off the sharks, and
he ended up losing all of his tools.
He lost the whole fish. He lost most of his tools. He basically, all he had left was the oars that he was rowing with.
It's not one of them.
And the mast. But even then, by the time he got home, he was just like, you know what? The sharks, they can have it. I don't care.
Because
I did what I wanted to do, and I did what I needed to do.
By the end of the book, it wasn't about having a fish to sell at the market. He completed the goal. I don't know.
He needed to prove to himself that he could still fish with the rest of them, with the best of them. And
that he could catch something after 84 days.
He went out on his 85th day and hooked it on the 85th day, and then ended up killing it and heading back home on the 87th day, which was his lucky number. That was the last time he caught it. Did you notice that? That the last time he caught a fish, it had been 87 days. Anyway, it was just interesting. A whole lot that I saw in that part too.
My emotions at the end of the book were so unexpected, because he got back home, he had this carcass of a fish, people were awing over it, they recognized that he'd caught this amazing creature because the spine was there and the tail and the head and all, but that was it. The old man, he parked his boat, for lack of nautical terms, he parked his boat, he got out, and he went to bed.
He went to bed.
As I would too.
And then the next morning, the boy came and brought him food.
Yeah.
I loved the relationship too.
It
was very, it was touched upon and it was referenced constantly as he was on the boat thinking about it and how alone he was. But you didn't get to see very much of it.
Yeah.
And yet it was still such a developed relationship that you just couldn't help loving it.
But I think I'm still stuck on the ending, because I expected to be really sad because he hadn't completed the goal. But the thing is, I think that must be it. He had completed the goal. He had completed his personal goal, which was to catch this fish, to prove to himself that he could do it. So even though he didn't have the reward that was going to come with that, and that was his initial goal, which was to bring a fish home to sell at market, I think that's why we didn't feel cheated at the end of the book.
Because he did prove himself.
He did.
Yeah.
The story was successful. The goal was achieved. Even we got the story goal, but not in the way we expected it.
Yeah. Which is that's a very good thing to do in writing, is give them what they want, but they don't know what they want.
But not in the way that they expect it.
Yeah. So there's so much more that we could talk about and explore, but part of it is we don't want this video to go extremely long. Part of it is that's all we can think of at the moment. And
we don't want to bore you with our...
Yeah.
Sometimes our discussions can be very rambly and boring, so...
But we just kind of wanted to show you, with this video specifically, we wanted to show you a little bit about our discussions and how we live outside of being in front of the camera.
Relating to books.
We're going to wrap up pretty soon here, but we just wanted to show you our discussions and the type of the way we think and talk.
The book is 127 pages long. It's a really quick read, and although maybe not everyone's going to enjoy this book as much as we did, it's definitely a classic. You should read, especially since it's so short. I mean,
it's very short. I mean, I expected it to take me a week, honestly, because that's how long books generally take me that are short. But I read it in 3 days.
I definitely anticipated it taking me way longer as well.
I read it in between vlog updates.
It's
which
so
is
engaging.
Incredibly fast for me. I mean, it's a short book, so that's not surprising, but that's how engaged I was in this story.
Highly recommend this.
Absolutely. This is absolutely a 5-star book in my mind.
If you guys want to see a standard book review for The Old Man and the Sea with our 5 elements of story, comment down below.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely something we could do. Break it down. I mean, it's a short book, which we don't need to reread it at this moment. But if you enjoyed this book, or if you took something away from it, video, if you enjoyed
you've read the book, let us know.
Yeah,
We'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
And even if you haven't, if there's something that you enjoyed about this video, or that you were able to take away, or if for some random reason you happen to be a student that needed the spark notes for this book or something, and you're watching this, let us know, because we'd be interested. I can't talk today. We'd be interested in hearing from you. Check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. Most of you are probably subscribed, but if you're not, please consider doing so. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up and comment down below, and we will see you in our next video. Stay warm, guys.